and welcome back to Matt Hayes' Tottenham blog and to another Premier League match ratings video. Today I'm going to be going through the ratings of our players after that bizarre 2-2 draw against Manchester City yesterday. The ratings aren't going to be as high as the result might suggest, because it was a pretty disappointing performance. I think we were very lucky in the end to get that point, although we did deserve it, because we were in that situation to get it, I suppose. So before I get into the video, if you want more content like this and you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I do a lot of these videos, but I also do interactive live streams before and after matches and during the week. So if you want to get some of that content, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and click that notification bell so you get notified whenever I upload or go live. So getting into the player ratings, of course we have to start in goal with Hugo Lorries. I think he didn't do particularly well with the two goals. Like the first one I think was quite difficult, coming back from, he was going from left to right and then the header went back onto his left. It was very difficult, but there was no real attempt for him to save it. And the second one was one I was particularly frustrated with, because when the ball came into that situation in the 6-yard box, you can never expect him to react to the shot and save it. But I think he could have, spread himself, made himself bigger and hoped that the ball hit him. So I think from that second goal he was definitely disappointing in that. Aside from the goals, he did make a few good saves. There was that Zinchenko long-range effort that was deflected. He got down really smartly to his right-hand side to save it. And there was a few comfortable saves. The one from Bernardo Silva when he was in at the edge of the box. And the one dodgy moment that he did have with that corner, he came and never got it. He never cleared it. When it did come back off the crossbar, he reacted well to get it away from Sergio Aguero. So, all things considered, I think it was a decent performance from him. And while he could have done better at one goal, he definitely saved us a couple of other times. So I'm going to give Hugo Lorries a 7 for that game. I want you to leave down in the comments below what you think of all these players and what ratings you would have given them for the game yesterday. Now, Kyle Walker-Peters, for all the talk that there was building up to this game about who was going to be playing in right back, I think he was one of our better players in the day. There was a few times he did lose out to Raheem Sterling, particularly early on in the game when that formation we were playing was keeping us really, really narrow. Sterling was pushing right out onto the touchline, and it was his weight was causing a lot of problems. There was a few times Sissoko and Winks, they were trying to track back, but they couldn't really decide between them who was going to track back, and then once they got there, who was actually going to mark Sterling. So for the first 10 or 15 minutes, we were certainly all over the place on that side. But I thought Walker-Peters recovered really, really well. And again, while he did lose out to Sterling a few times, I think all in all, it was a decent performance from him. His first, real big challenge in a Tottenham jersey, and I thought he did pretty well. You could say he might have tracked the run a bit better for the first goal, but I think with just the quality of that ball and the speed that Sterling has, even if Walker-Peters had gone, I don't think he would have gotten anywhere near stopping the goal. So I'm going to give him a 7. Again, a really, really good performance from someone who was expected to be our weakest point going into that game. Now going into centre half, I'm going to do Toby and Sanchez together because they both had really similar games, I suppose. They did well for the majority of things. I mean, when you're up against an attack like Manchester City's and you are playing in a weakened team, obviously Jan Vertonghen, probably our best centre-back, wasn't on the pitch. It was always going to be a really tough game for them. And playing against the likes of Sergio Aguero and then Jesus when he came on, and you have the likes of Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, Raheem Sterling, all floating around, and you never know who you're going to be coming up against. I think they did relatively well, but the two goals, perhaps they should have done a bit better. They should have organised their defence a bit better. Because for Kevin De Bruyne to get that sort of space on the edge of the box for that first goal to whip the cross in, I think they need to be doing a lot better in organising their defence. Because at the end of the day, it is their job to, when these different situations are arising, to sort out who's marking who. And especially for the second goal, Davinson Sanchez beaten by the cross on his goal side, his positioning should have been so much better, and it should have been easy for him to cut out that cross. Because, I mean, after that there were one or two similar situations where he was there and he was able to cut out the cross. So that should have been his ball. And Alderweireld maybe should have been a bit stronger with Aguero. But I think, even though they were probably at fault mainly for that second goal, I do think the fact that they did restrict Man City to 2 goals in the entire game, and I know a lot of that was to do with Hugo Lorries and a lot of wasted chances for City as well. I'm going to give them both a 6. And I think the fact that we did get the point is probably going to boost these ratings a lot. If that last minute goal had stood, I'm sure these ratings wouldn't be as high as they are, but even so, with the fact we did get a draw, they could be a bit harsh. But it's just, I suppose, my opinion. Again, leave yours down in the comments below and we'll see what you think. Now, Danny Rose, I think, had a very, very tough game because, again, with all that talk of what was going on the other side with Kyle Walker-Peters or Serge Aurier, it seemed like Man City kind of used that to their advantage, and they attacked us down the other side where we were least expecting it, and that is where the 2 goals came from. But I think with Eriksen playing kind of on the left side of midfield and being the one expected to track Kyle Walker back, that gave Danny Rose a massive problem because that's not what Eriksen does. It's not what he likes to do. And even if he does want to do that, it's against one of the quickest, most athletic fullbacks in the league. And he was always going to struggle against Kyle Walker. And that certainly didn't help Rose out. Then with the kind of rotation that was going on in the middle of the park, no one really knew who was going over helping out the fullbacks. And Rose was just completely... he was just outnumbered out there. Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne and Kyle Walker. And that is where the 2 goals came from. And they did have a number of chances coming from there as well. So it was a really tough game for Rose. And just with the way the game went, he couldn't really offer anything going forward. So it was a really tough game. And I'm going to give him a 5 because he didn't really do anything that should boost his rating. And he was just cut out a lot down that right-hand side. Now, going into the middle of the park, Moussa Sissoko, it was a disappointing performance for him against Aston Villa on the first day, and I think it was the same again, but it's the formation that's catching him out, because playing in that for the majority of the time on the right-hand side of midfield, he's been dragged out of position a lot because there's just no width in the formation, and with Kyle Walker-Peters playing right back against that City side, he couldn't get forward at all, and it put a lot of the onus on Moussa Sissoko to, when we were attacking out on the right-hand side, but also defending there, because Kyle Walker-Peters did need help. And it was just a really difficult one for Sissoko to get into. He didn't really show much defensively, and when he was in possession, he wasn't really showing any quality. There was one stage there in the second half when we could have had a counter-attack on, and Sissoko he wasn't even running forward with the ball, and Kyle Walker came and shouldered him, and Sissoko went flying, and it kind of just summed up his performance. It wasn't his best, and it was just a relatively disappointing game from him. Then Tanguy Ndombele in the middle of the park. It was a really tough test for him in his second game in English football to go up against perhaps the best team in English football history, and it kind of showed that he was a bit out of his depth, but that's nothing against him. It's simply because of the change he has made, and at only 22 years of age, he has a lot of time to get used to this, and it is only a matter of time before he does. After that game against Villa, Pochettino said he was only playing at about 40%, and I think we saw that again today. He really struggled against the midfield of Gundogan, Rodri and De Bruyne, and it just wasn't the right game for him to show what he can do, and I think you can forgive him for the poor performance. There was one moment where he actually put Bernardo Silva in on goal trying to intercept a pass, and he just knocked it past Sanchez. We were lucky Bernardo Silva really scuffed the shot. But it was a really tough game for Ndombele, and he didn't do very well. I'm going to give him a 5 as well. And then moving on to the third man in midfield, Harry Winks at the base of the diamond. Again, it's not the type of game that he likes. It's not the type of game that he does well in. He prefers being in possession. He prefers kind of sitting behind the attacks when we are having these sustained attacks. And I think he was a bit out of his depth as well defensively, because that's not his strongest point. Although he is good in that regard, it wouldn't be the best part of his game. And he really struggled. He couldn't get on the ball at all. And it just wasn't the game for him. And I'm going to give him a 5 as well. So the trio in midfield all getting 5s. They did play poorly, but I wouldn't put the blame entirely on them, because look, it was against Man City, who, even by their standard, it was a really good performance from them yesterday. But yeah, I'm going to give them 5 in the midfield. Now, moving on to the 2 behind the striker, Christian Eriksen. It seems to be the typical big game performance from him. He wasn't really in it at all. As I said, defensively, he's supposed to be tracking Kyle Walker. He didn't do that job very well. I can't really remember him being in possession at all throughout that game. It was a very strange one from him. And I know he didn't have a lot of the ball on the front foot, but he was almost non-existent throughout that game. And I'm going to give him a 5 as well. It was a very strange one. After that Villa performance, you kind of expect him to push on a bit, but it seems to be back to square one at the moment. Completely not in the game at all. It was very disappointing. Then the player that was alongside him for the majority of the game, Erik Lamella. Look, it was a typical Lamella performance. He closed down every single ball that he could. He was okay in possession, but he chased down absolutely everything and put his heart and soul into the entire game. And for a change, a moment of genius from him for that goal. I think it's really underrated how much it takes for him to actually spot Ederson so far off his line and manage to get into that position and so quickly take that shot and catch him out. Because looking back on the replay, you can see when Ndombele had the ball in the middle of the pitch, before he even passed it to Lamella had a quick look to his side and he saw that Ederson was out of position, and before he got the ball he knew exactly what he wanted to do, got it onto his left foot, brought it in between the centre-backs, so there was that the space between the centre-backs to just curl it around. And it wasn't the most perfect finish, but it didn't have to be, because Ederson really uncharacteristically was so far out of position, and it was just so clever from Lamella to spot that, but also the quality to actually be able to pull it off. I think it was a great goal from him, and hopefully that's something we can see from him in the future. And I know people were disappointed that Lucas wasn't in the starting 11 and that Lamella did get the nod, but I think it did pay off in the end, because Lamella got the goal and then Lucas came on and had a massive impact. Then it was, of course, Harry Kane up front, and an incredibly tough game for him. You know, absolutely no service up there, which again, you can't really blame our players for. It was just City were absolutely exceptional and one of their best performances for a while. The one shot Kane did have was inside his own half. He tried to pull off what he did against Juventus and ended up being nowhere near it. But again, nothing for him to do really. I'm going to give him a 5 because he didn't do anything, but there was no chance. He was dropping deep and he was pulling out wide, trying to get a possession, trying to get some rhythm going in the attacks, but it just didn't work. City were too good. So I'm going to give him a 5. And then the man of the moment came off the bench and I suppose got us the point. Lucas Mora. I mean, you can't really say much about what he did. He came off the bench after 19 seconds with his first touch. Smallest man on the pitch, scores a header from a corner. A great impact from him. And for the rest of the game, he didn't really do much. But again, he couldn't, because there was just no chance for us to do anything to City, apart from the 2 goals that we did. And that was why it was so important that we were so clinical. But Lucas, I mean, he did chase down the ball when it was up there, and he did offer us a bit of an outlet if we had the chance. That if we did play a long ball, you know he was going to chase everything. And he had a good moment down the right hand side where he managed to somehow beat Zinchenko, and he almost picked out Kane in the box. I think he should have pulled it back to Eriksen, but he just showed his pace and why he is so important for us. So I'm going to give him an 8 simply because of the impact he had in the game. Now, 2 players did come off the bench, Lo Celso and Skip, but they were in the last couple of minutes. They didn't have any chance to impact the game. But it was great to see Lo Celso come on and make his debut, even though it was, you know, only for a couple of minutes and he never even touched the ball. It was great to just get him out there for the first time, and it was nice to see him, and hopefully we will see a bit more of him in the game against Newcastle next week. Now, as I said at the start of the video, if you want more content like this plus interactive live streams, please hit the subscribe button down below and click that notification bell so you get notified whenever I upload. If you have enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and share it out to anyone who might want to watch it. Thanks for watching.